Thank you for joining us here on Something to Talk About. Today, I'm going to revisit an interviewee that we had last year that I had so much fun with. We are recognizing in April Autism Awareness Month, and the president of the Autism Community Together organization is here. Jo Bloss is going to be joining us with her famous son, Joseph Bloss. That's all ahead here on Something to Talk About. You don't want to miss this. Month, and this time last year I had such a great time. It was really one of my most favorite shows to share the stage with Jo Bloss and her son Joseph. We're here at King's, of course. Joseph is an avid connoisseur of French fries. So she's cutting this up because Joseph is eating it faster than she can get it all cut up. Hi, Jo.
Hi, Patty. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We're good.
You know, it's a busy month this month. Whenever this comes around, Autism Awareness Month, I always wonder what is it that the organization wants people to know about autism?
We'd like them, of course, awareness was, when I became president last year, awareness was my big thing because before Joseph got diagnosed with autism, I really didn't know much about it. Mm-hmm. And now that, you know, we're living it, as we say, we just want the public to know a little more about it, so maybe when our kids are having a hard time or a bad day, they won't give us those stares and glares, or we've had parents say, yeah, I got scolded in church or at a restaurant or something. But just know that maybe if they're having a hard time that they may be autistic. And
well, you know, I mean, I guess that is a kind of delicate matter because right. you don't know if a child is a little overactive in an environment that he's in, or if he's, you know, has bad behavior. You just
right.
You just don't know. Is there any like sort of physical signs of autism that people can relate to?
No, you know, and the thing is, most people, including myself, we experience it where people say, wow, I didn't know your son was autistic, he looks normal. And that's just it. Most of them they look normal. You know, most of the kids, we have a lot of kids that are high functioning. They read really well or they do things really well, but then they have issues with social connections, right? So like one of the ladies told me, my son, and he's great in school, he's very smart, but he has no friends because he doesn't know how to connect. So that's the neurological disorder, I guess, in the brain. It's something that has to do with their social connections with people.
When did you know that he was autistic?
When he was around 2, he was already getting physical and occupational therapy. And the occupational therapist says, you know, there's something a little different about your son. I think he's experiencing some autistic type behaviors. And like I said, I didn't know anything about autism. And she was explaining to me some of his characteristics. And, you know, I didn't know. But at the time, he had already been receiving therapy for over a year. And I really put my trust in you know, the therapists that were coming to my house to work with Joseph. So when they said we're gonna refer him to Tripler so he can see a developmental pediatrician, of course I was like, okay, let's do it. You know, whatever can help my son. And when we saw the first developmental pediatrician, he said, well, let's do some other tests. Let's not jump. But you know, when he gave us this pamphlet to read, everything I read about it, I could have sworn they wrote about Joseph. So it's like. So that,
but you mean the kind of behaviors he was exhibiting? When you hadn't had a baby before, so
right.
So all of that seemed to be perfectly in order.
Yes.
Or did you detect that something just didn't?
I had no idea. Here's my food.
I'm laughing at her because Lent is over and she's like
Yay! I gave up
Grinding
meat for
meat.
Lent. Yeah.
So what you're saying is that you couldn't have told the difference between what was average developmental behavior and what was autistic developmental autistic behavior.
No, not between those two, but in his development, I did see that he because he wasn't meeting his milestones.
Was it physically?
Well,
Oh.
first physically, since he was in his 4th-month checkup, he wasn't turning, he wasn't doing this, he wasn't doing that. So the doctor said, "Let me have a physical therapist come over." And the way Naval Hospital does it is, if they're below 3, they'll go to your house because they want them in their most comfortable
Natural
setting
and
natural
setting,
setting.
yeah, okay.
So the physical therapist came, and she had been coming for a couple months, and then she said, "Do you mind if I bring in an occupational therapist?" And I guess she saw that besides physical milestones, he wasn't meeting any other milestones. And he used to coo or baba or stuff like that, babble more, right? But then all of a sudden he wasn't. And so when she said, "Can I bring in an occupational therapist?" I didn't even know what occupational therapist was, but like I said, anything for my son. So she came in, and oh my God, she was such a godsend, because it's just like she knew everything and she knew what to do. And every time she thought about something, she would say, "Okay, I'm going to write this referral for the doctor." And her name is Teresa Cobb. I want to give her kudos. She's no longer on Guam. We're getting some more, okay? She's no longer on Guam, but when she was here, she just did everything. I mean, she even looked at his eyes and said, "I think he needs eye surgery. Something's wrong with his eyes. He's not seeing correctly. Maybe we can get his ears checked." I mean, everything that she said and we had done, I mean, it made a world of difference.
Because he didn't have good sight and he didn't have good
I
hearing?
guess not. I
Wow,
mean, I
and you
couldn't
wouldn't have
tell-
known that.
I couldn't tell looking at him. And then, even when we went to Tripler and saw the ophthalmologist, she was trying to explain what the occupational therapist was telling me. And it took her a while before she said, "Look at his eyes. They're not looking at you." So
What were they doing? Just sort of
it's like
looking
he
beyond
had like
you?
a lazy eye, and then the other one was just following it. So he wasn't looking directly at you. And even when he started school, he wasn't having a great time. And we didn't realize that it was because of his eyesight.
Oh, because he couldn't see anything. He couldn't see-
He couldn't see right. He couldn't see correctly.
Wow.
And it was so touching because when we came back from getting his eye surgery, so it was the equivalent of like laser surgery, LASIK. And we came back to Guam, and his first day at school, so his teacher was redhead with freckles, and he just kept staring at her. Then he touched each cheek, and we joked about, he was saying, "Hey, can you wash your cheek?" Because
Because you had freckles? Oh,
but
funny.
she cried, and she contacted me, and she told me the story, and we cried together because
Wow.
I said, "Oh my God, so my son couldn't see?" After that, his work with the occupational and physical therapist at school changed, 180 degrees. He started doing what he was doing. He was he wasn't walking at the time, but he was just doing everything he needed to do better. And everybody goes, "Oh my God," because he couldn't see. And look, I'm almost crying talking about
Wow.
it. Because it was just wow.
And all that time, was that the part, is that all that time you just didn't
All that
know?
time we just didn't know. I mean, and she even said, well, from the layman's point of view, you couldn't tell just looking at him.
Yeah. What about hearing? What about hearing?
And then hearing, they suspected maybe he had issues hearing because when we would call his name, he wasn't turning. Or even to hear mommy's voice, right? He wasn't really turning. So we went and they put ear tubes. And that day, my dad came over after maybe a couple hours after we got home. And when he walked in the door and he said, "Hi, Joseph," my son turned. And everybody said, "Oh my God."
Oh my God.
So it's like
Another moment where you
yes.
didn't know. So from then, what were some of the more remarkable differences?
Well, in school they were doing a lot of, "Okay, we're getting more,
We're
he
getting
wants
more
more
fries.
water."
Here it is. Here it is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we
also
just have our own communication
Thanks,
going
Shane.
on.
We need some more water too, baby. Thank you so much. Here you go, Joseph.
Yes, here you
Okay.
go, Joseph. It's hot.
You have to
son.
cut that out. Okay. And
So,
from there on in, it just became.
Yeah, he became just more cooperative with everything they were doing in school because now he could see and he could hear. And so one summer, he spent the whole summer in the pool and they were doing physical therapy on his legs. And he was already 4 years old. Later that maybe in October, November time frame, that's when he started walking. And even when we went to Tripler, they said he had such low tone. Don't be surprised if he never walks, is what they said, or if he has to walk with assistive devices.
And so all of this was diagnosed by specialists here, but I mean at
Right.
Naval Hospital.
At Naval Hospital, and then we were sent to Tripler for whatever procedures.
How
that were
much
done.
has changed in the discoveries from then to now? I mean,
think-
are there tests, more thorough tests that can be done, or more things that people can recognize, new parents can
I
recognize?
think, yes, if people recognize that their children are exhibiting certain behaviors, we always recommend that they go to the Guam Early Intervention Center to get tested, or just see your pediatrician and get tested. But number one is, accept that there may be something wrong, and then number two is go get them tested, because I've run into people who their kids are 6 or 7 and they're just getting diagnosed because the parents never wanted to accept it. Or they were told that their child might be autistic and they didn't want to accept it.
That's hard to hear.
Yeah, and so, from what I tell them is nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to know their child is autistic. We don't, but in order to help our children, we have to learn if it is autism, and if it is, how can we best help them? But if we just don't accept it at all,
Then you're losing out on years of development, potential
Yeah.
development. Wow, when we come back, I want to talk about this story. I mean, Joseph is getting older, and there's got to be a family plan, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And with an only child,
Right.
got to be a family plan. And then we'll talk about some of the events for April. We're here with Joe Bloss, the president of ACT, Autism Community Together. We're here at King's. We're going to chow a little bit. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're here with Joe Bloss talking about autism, and I want to ask you about Guam and how, if it wasn't for Naval Hospital and what the experiences of the doctors up there, is there a much of a difference between the services for the military and the services for civilians in this way, or are there enough pediatricians on Guam that have a lot of experience in these kind of?
Yeah, I can't speak from experience, just from what I've learned from other parents. But I think the pediatricians on Guam are, they know enough to be able to say, I think your child is autistic. And if they don't do the test at their clinic, then they'll send them to the Guam Early Intervention Center. But I think getting the diagnosis, I don't think is the issue. I think it's the services after the diagnosis. I mean, because in school, he goes to McCool down at Navy, and so in school he gets a lot of his services there, but they don't, they do a great job. They've done great with Joseph, but they don't have the ABA, or the Applied Behavioral Analysis, which is the therapy specific for children with autism. So a lot of the things that are lacking are that particular therapy, but the Guam Department of Education and DODEA, or any of the private schools that try to educate our kids with autism, I mean, they're doing their best with the resources we have. So, we're working with Hunter Speaks organization, and their specific mission is to bring services to Guam. The Autism Center, the therapy, whatever they can do to bring services to Guam.
Because they're finding autism more and more.
Right. And I don't think it's because there suddenly is a huge amount of children with autism. I think it's because you got some right there. I think it's because they're finally recognizing what autism is, or parents are finally saying, let me go get my child tested.
But there are also safeguards that are in the public schools, right? I mean, every school should have teachers or nurses or counselors who might recognize.
Yes, absolutely. And there are some teachers in some of the public schools who have specific training in autism. Maybe they didn't go through the whole gamut of being certified as an ABA therapist, but they know enough to be able to get the child started.
Yeah. Well, like I was saying before the break, Joseph, how old is he?
He's 9. He'll
Oh
be
my,
10 next
see,
month.
so he just keeps growing
Oh my gosh, yeah.
and he keeps getting bigger and older
And stronger.
and stronger. And so what's that? What is that for a mother? You know,
Oh, like
having-
any mom, we enjoy seeing our kids grow and develop. For us, it's been some of the development, of course, has come a lot slower than others because, you know, I see my 1-year-old niece already feeding herself or walking for that matter. Joseph didn't walk till he was 4.5. Even potty training, Joseph is still not potty trained. And talking to other parents, sometimes they're in their teens before they get the concept. But the school takes him to the restroom regularly, and he's just actually started peeing in the toilet.
Oh, nice.
And he's
Good job.
actually started going when he realizes he needs to use the restroom. He won't do it at home though.
He'll
I've
only do it in that
tried.
environment.
Yes,
Well, that's
I've tried,
interesting.
but they said maybe when he gets more comfortable and
Yeah.
does it more regularly, he'll start
Are
recognizing.
there
it.
other accomplishments that he makes when he's at home in that environment that you don't get to experience? It's like stuff that they tell you, this is what he's doing. or
Yeah,
this is,
so he'll feed himself with a spoon at school.
Oh, and he's
so
like
if they
that.
give him cereal, and Joseph only eats like probably I can count it on my hand what he eats, but it's all got to be dry. This is probably the most moist texture. So when he eats cereal, he likes Lucky Charms, but he doesn't like the marshmallows. You have to pull the marshmallows. But he'll actually eat the Lucky Charms with a spoon at home. I mean, at school, but he won't do that at home.
oh, wow. Can you introduce new foods to him?
I do all the time,
But
and
he's not
politely
having
he
it.
pushes me away. That's okay, Mom. You know.
So how does a parent plan for the eventuality that their child is going to become a grown adult and we aren't going to be here forever?
Right. So that's one of the big things in ACT that we're trying to work through because there's a lot of kids already that are in their 20s or in their teens about to be independent. So that's one of the councils that we have going in ACT is we have to work towards independent living for our kids. That's the biggest, the scariest thing for us right now. And so we're working to make sure that there's facilities out there. And then, with Joseph, I've planned for his schooling, my retirement, just him being taken care of, and I think he will be financially, but taking care of him developmentally or just taking care of him because, we're always afraid that, we put him in a home or something. Are they going to abuse him? Are they really going to take care of him? So that's our biggest fear right now. That we're planning for because there's really not much out there.
Well, there's not, out there as in on Guam. There's nothing.
Yeah,
here.
on Guam.
If your families aren't taking care of the children, then they have places. Are there centers like on the mainland, residential centers?
On the mainland, yes, there are. There's depending on their level of development or growth, there's different kinds of homes for children with autism. Wow. Some where they're completely dependent, except maybe it's like we talked about earlier, they're social. They don't have a social. They can't communicate socially, but they can go out and work and then go back home. Well, there's a home that will take care of them. And then there's others where they provide some services, but the child is basically independent, but they just need help with a few things.
Yeah. Wow.
And
Are you scared?
I am, and Joseph he'll be turning 10 next month, but we have parents on Guam who have kids that are 29, 30 years old.
Yeah.
That's scary because their parents are older.
Yeah, I was talking to a mother whose son is in his 20s, and it's difficult because he's much larger than she is.
Yeah.
And it's much harder to maintain and control because he outweighs her, by a lot. Well, last year when we had this conversation, and true to form, Joseph just stuck his hand at my dress up here. Because I don't know what it is about the texture of stuff.
He loves certain textures.
Certain textures. So he stuck his hands up there because he wanted to feel the denim. Last year we were laughing because Joseph loves elevators, and so when we finished taping last year, she was heading off to.
I was heading up to Anderson.
Yeah, and
but then
you,
I pit stopped at Kmart because somebody called, so I had to meet them. So I said, "Let me kill time at Kmart."
So she sends me this message from Kmart because she was saying that at all costs she tries to avoid the presentation of an elevator because, like right now on his iPad, he's got videos of just elevators, just going.
People riding elevators.
People riding elevators. So there's a fascination there. So she said she went and parked up on the roof or something at Kmart, and lo and behold,
Well, actually, we went into the store.
yeah.
And I'm just pushing him around. I turned to look at something. He's climbing out of the cart. And I'm like, what are you doing? He throws his iPad. I turn to get his iPad, and he darts for this elevator.
Oh my God, that is
I
so
said,
funny.
so my message said, did you know there was an elevator in Kmart?
Who knew there was an elevator in
knew?
Kmart? Because he found the elevator, and he ended up taking it up and down and up and down for
Until
how long
we got
did you?
scolded.
Oh yeah.
Until we got scolded by the employees
Because-
because it's the elevator, I guess, is for
Oh,
their
that's so
supply
funny.
warehouse.
That's so
And
funny.
so we got scolded. So then after that, and like you were mentioning about kids who are bigger than parents, well, he's getting bigger. So
Yeah.
I struggled dragging him out to the car and putting him in the car.
That's so funny. I just love that story. It's hilarious. What are some of the events where people want to learn more about it, or if they suspect their child has autism, what do they do?
Well, we invite them to come to any of our events. And just this, if I can mention, just this past Monday, we had the proclamation signing and flag raising ceremony at the governor's office. And we were able to kind of highlight the capabilities of our kids. So one of the children led us in the national anthem and Guam hymn.
Oh, cool.
And then 4 of the kids actually read the proclamation before the governor signed it. So that was just incredible. And there were different age gaps in the kids that were reading it, so it shows their capabilities. One even asked the governor to hold the mic and the proclamation because he was going, word for word.
Oh, I
But
saw that photo.
It was really cute,
So is there like one specific event? You have a fair?
We have a fair coming up on Saturday the 14th, so that's a week from this Saturday. But the night before, we're going to do a parade of kids and a lighting up at the Agania Shopping Center.
Oh, nice.
So that's going to be in the evening at 6 o'clock. And then the next day, Saturday the 14th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., is our Autism Awareness Fair. And during that fair, we're going to highlight our kids. So all the exhibits, all the displays, all the entertainment are going to include children with autism.
Wow.
And as you know, Travis Kaufman passed away recently, so he was very involved in ACT. Even before I really got involved, he really brought ACT to where it was, where it is today. And so we're dedicating the fair to Travis Kaufman.
Oh, man. Ha,
Yeah, I know.
that's pretty cool.
And yeah, I'm about to cry too. But it's just because he was just an awesome guy,
Yeah, he's
and
an
just
awesome
seeing him as a father with his kids
Yeah.
was awesome. So we're dedicating the fair to him,
cool.
and we're featuring our kids there at the Agania Shopping Center from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then the following week, on Saturday, the 21st, we're actually having a non-denominational prayer service at Total Church, led by Father Mike, but we're going to be featuring different denominations. So it's not just Catholic, it's Catholic, I believe Baptist, the Latter-day, I'm not sure what
Okay.
the others, but 3 or 4 different denominations. We just want everybody to come together for a prayer service. And then the following week, we haven't quite confirmed it, but they're saying about the 29th, we're going to have a massive Thanksgiving at Cathedral. And that's why we had the prayer services, because we understand not everybody's
He's
Catholic.
Catholic, yeah.
And
Well-
then we also have a family fun day at Onward the following week. So,
Is there a website where people can go to look at these events?
we have a Facebook page, Autism Community Together, on Facebook, or they can email me at autismcommunityguam@gmail.com for any information, and I answer that particular email. So,
Yeah.
if anybody's thinks their child is autistic, or their child is, or maybe a friend has a child with autism, email me and we'll get together. And I've gotten a lot of those. How can I join, or how can I just get information, or what are you doing? We just want to bring more people to ACT, because we're all about supporting each other.
Yeah.
If you have a child with autism, or if I have a child with autism, so if I'm telling you I'm having a bad day, and another
Someone
parent
is
tells
gonna-
you, yes, I understand, then I know that parent understands. They're not just blowing smoke,
Thanks, sis. You're like one of the strongest chicks I know. I appreciate
Thank you very
it.
much, and thank you again for having us.
It's my
and
pleasure.
Joseph, thanks you for all the French
Of
fries.
course. Thank you, Kings, for keeping the flow going.
Right.
Appreciate that. That's it for us on Something to Talk About. You see you next time.